There we go. Okay, this is new. I have tested this and tested this and tested this. So now we are live on both Facebook and YouTube. So I am very excited and happy about that. Didn't work last week, but we got it working this week. And actually, Victoria said she can't see. Let me go back to Facebook. Okay, it's showing up on Facebook for me. Try refreshing. Good idea. And then let me double check on YouTube. No comments on YouTube, but it says there's 10 people watching on YouTube. So if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and there's Colette. Good morning, gorgeous. How are you? Yeah, there was a minor glitch this morning and I resent out the link for YouTube. So it should be working now. Good. Tina says we can see. Yay! The other awesome thing is I can see everybody's chat from all locations located in one handy dandy little spot. And it actually works better than Facebook. It's funny because I did get a comment. I didn't read it. Somebody else read it and forwarded it to me that they don't like when I talk about technical difficulties. It happens. And I'm just sharing my frustration with you because I know we all have those mornings of frustration. Good morning, Joanne. So, yeah, it says 11 people over on YouTube and 7 on Facebook. So, yeah, and I can actually tell over here who's on Facebook and who's on. I really like this. Victoria's in her last stages of packing to move back to the States. How's that going? Also, if you're a member of the Cafe Club, you will have gotten an email this morning saying that some of your information has been released. I haven't uploaded all the bonuses for cappuccinos, but you do have already the espresso and the latte bonuses, and notes have already been put up. So, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it, Joanne. I'm trying to teach and share and say what's going on. Well, Tina, I'm not sure what's on YouTube because Colette is over there and she was able to comment. So, I don't know. Let me just try. Yeah, so it worked for me. So, anyway, yeah, so I'm really excited about this next step in continuing our self-care series. And I think it's going to go real well. This is interesting. I have one clock. Oh, all right. That's my bad. Here we go. There we go. I set the timer for 5 minutes after because that's what happened last time. So I'm a little off. YouTube's working great. How was that link? That's great. I'm so glad to hear it. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and fade to black and we will get started. And remember, keep commenting and asking questions because I will go back and read those questions afterwards, but I will present the content and then I will come back and answer your questions. All righty, let me fade to black, roll the intro, or actually fade to black and we will get started. Happy Monday. Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Colleen. This is part 2 in a 17-part series on self-care and self-compassion. In part 1, we talked about your inner critic, your inner mean girl, that when you talk to yourself, there's that little voice inside that says mean things to you that you would never say to one of your children. So today I'm going to be giving you 8 more tips and techniques for dealing with your inner mean girl. Stay tuned. Why do we have this inner mean person? And what can we do to shut them down? First of all, as we talked about in part 1, give them a name. And so you can call them whatever you want to call them, but give them a name so that you can talk to them and tell them to get out of your head because this is not you. This is not who you want to be and who you are. So talk to that person, that inner mean girl, and get rid of them. So a good tip is to give them a name. But we talked about that in part 1. If you would like to continue to receive all of these videos, then make sure that you either subscribe to my page if you're watching on Facebook, or make sure you click this little subscribe button here in the lower right-hand corner if you're watching on YouTube. And make sure you click the little bell as well, and you'll be notified every time a new video is posted. So let's talk about self-kindness. That's the first way that we want to deal with this inner critic and this inner mean girl, is by separating ourselves from that voice that's so mean. So it becomes an act of self-kindness to treat yourself warmly and with understanding, and don't allow those critical, harsh words and phrases, which we detailed in part 1. So go back and watch part 1 if you haven't done so already. We detailed those critical phrases so that you will know that if you hear these little voices or sentences coming in your head, that's not you. That's that inner mean girl. That's that inner critic. And that's how you need to shut that one down and start giving some compassion to you and working with some self-kindness. And self-compassionate people recognize that being imperfect and failing every once in a while is part of life. As a Christian, I think there was only one perfect person that was put on the planet. And I don't know about you as a Christian or non-Christian or whatever your faith and your belief system is, that everybody makes mistakes. And everybody presents what they want you to see. Again, I do this all the time. It's just like this frame. I present to the world what I want you to see. So a great TikTok video the other day, and a gal was showing her all her perfect shelves, and then she continued to pan around the room, and the rest of the living room was a hot mess. She said, so don't believe everything you see on social media about other people, because they only present to you, they only show you the part of their life that they want you to see. So recognize that failing and being imperfect and making mistakes is part of being human, and learn to be gentle with yourself. Also, be open and accepting of suffering. That we recognize the fact that, yeah, sometimes bad things are going to happen. You know, are you in your life right now where you thought you'd be when you were planning out your life in high school or college, and when you were getting your education and you thought, and you were planning out your life about what you wanted to be when you grew up? Is that where you are right now? Probably not. Most of us, life takes twists and turns, and things happen, and you adjust. And when you recognize that that is a part of the human condition and our journey in life, is that stuff happens, you're more open and accepting when stuff does happen. You're like, okay, that's all right. Been there, done that. Bad things have happened to me in the past, and you know what? I'm still here. And you can say the same things, which means you're a survivor. You survived it before, you can survive it again. So when bad things happen and you're going through some stuff, just recognize sometimes that happens. I got through it before, I will get through it again. Be kind to yourself. Be soothing and nurturing, and understand that you're doing the best you can, and do the best you can. The second tip is to recognize that you're not alone. There is a sense of common humanity, which is kind of the psychological term. Just that's the shared human experiences that, we all go through stuff. And so don't allow the inner critic, that mean girl, to say, oh, woe is me. This always happens to me. I'm the only one. And, so oftentimes we think we're the only one that this has ever happened to. That's why support groups are great, and that's one of the nice things about being online, is that you recognize that you aren't the only one to endure these types of things. So if you kind of find yourself falling into the, I have to be the only person that this has ever happened to in my life, that will lead to feelings of isolation, which leads to depression. So understand that somewhere in the world, someone has gone through what you're going through right now and survived. And so can you. So it's understanding that you're not the only one. There's that sense of common humanity. Third is mindfulness. And this word is tossed around a lot, right? But It's just being aware and observing the current moment, not worrying about the future and not stressing and getting anxious about things that are going to happen, not stressing about the past, not getting all caught up past, future. Right now, being aware of what you're feeling, how that feeling reacts in your body, your physical reaction to that feeling, being open to observing the current moment and exactly what you're going through and what you're feeling, and maybe trying to dig down to why, but focusing on right now, because that's all you have is right now. The future hasn't been guaranteed, and the past, and they say that 70 to 80% of our memories of the past are inaccurate. So worrying about right now. So that's really what we're talking about when we talk about mindfulness. Okay, so those first three are more about self kindness. Now let's talk about the next few tips are going to be kind of how you treat yourself, focusing more on how you would treat a friend if a friend was going through the same thing. So you may not be able to take away another person's pain, but you can validate their pain. And I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm sorry you're feeling this way, and provide them support, right? You wouldn't say to one of your best friends or to one of your children, well, stop feeling that way. It's stupid to feel that way, or get over yourself, or that's not how you talk to a best friend. So keep that in mind. So tip number 4 is being okay to accept that you have made a mistake, and let yourself be okay with making mistakes. And this ties in again a little bit with self-kindness and common humanity. Yeah, we're all human, so is everybody else, and it's okay. We all make mistakes. So rather than interpreting that, we can let ourselves off the hook the same way we would with somebody else. Does that make sense? So, for example, if a friend doesn't answer the phone, you don't jump to the worst case scenario. You don't assume they're a bad person because they haven't answered the phone when you call. And if this is a really good friend, you're like, I hope they're okay. Normally they answer the phone when I call it for. So give yourself that same permission to be human, because you're not alone in being imperfect. Number 5 is caring for yourself the same way you would care for another person. So being understanding and empathetic toward yourself. So if a friend is down or hurt, you may physically hug them, squeeze their hand, give them a pat on the back. So it releases your caregiver. When you see someone else in pain, it releases your caregiver, and you want to serve and to help them because they're someone you love. So turn into that same caregiver system for yourself, because you know what that does? It releases oxytocin. So even if you have to imagine talking to yourself as if you were speaking to a friend, then you can do that. Use tender, forgiving language. So if your girlfriend was going through a hard time, you may have a term of endearment that you use towards your best friend. Oh my gosh, darling, or girlfriend. I call them girlfriend, sweetheart, or whatever word that you would use with your best friend. Use that word with yourself, because what it will do is it will tap into the caregiver person of yourself. That word that you use with other people will help you subconsciously tap into that oxytocin reserve that's in your body that you use as caregiving toward other people or for your children. Then you can use it for yourself. If you use those same words, it'll trigger the same thing in your brain. Your brain is dumb. Your brain is dumb and only does what you tell it to do. So by using those terms, you're telling your brain, hey, I'm taking care of somebody right now. So use those terms of endearment with yourself. Okay, girlfriend, I've got your back. Let's get through this together. Now, some people aren't comfortable with that, and don't go overboard with it if it's not comfortable, but use those terms that you would use, not in a mocking way, but use the terms you use and tap into that oxytocin. So next we're going to talk about, in the last 6, 7, and 8, we're going to talk about being more self-aware, and this goes along with emotional intelligence. So this is where we can learn to change our self-talk. Number 6 is using release statements. So some people do not like positive affirmations. They think Stuart Smalley and doggone it, I'm good enough, and you stare at yourself in the mirror until you love yourself the way God loves you. I got that penance once in confession. And technically should still be in front of a mirror. So if you're not a fan of those types of positive affirmations, then try release statements. So what's the difference and how are they different? Well, they're closely related, but they are still a little bit different in that when you think a negative thought, oh, how could I be so horrible? Turn it around and release yourself from that feeling. How could I be so horrible? You know what? It's okay that I feel upset, and release that. It's okay that I have this instant emotion. The emotion is not a bad thing. The feeling is not bad. It doesn't make you a bad, feeling those feelings, having those emotions don't make you a bad person. It's what you do with them. It's the same thing when, if you want to talk about, virtue and morality, thinking a thought and entertaining that thought may be a bad thing, but thinking the thought is not a bad thing. You can shut it down and release it and say, whoa, where did that thought come from? I choose not to think that anymore. It's okay that I thought it, but now I release it. Does that make sense? So it's different in the affirmation, where affirmations are, I'm a good person, I'm this, I'm that, which I believe in doing those types of things, but this is also important, equally important, I believe, that it's okay to have the thought, but I release it. So using release statements. And allow yourself to accept the fact that you thought it, but on the flip side of that, remember, it takes 10 positives to counteract 1 negative. So also acknowledge your character strengths. And if I ask people, this is the same thing with whether I'm coaching and working with people or I'm working with them on their image and talking about what they wear. If we talk about an image, they'll talk about the worst parts about their body. I think my butt's too big. I don't like my nose. Well, what do you like about yourself? What are your best well, I guess I have a nice smile. Well, let's focus on, focusing on that. It's the same thing when you're talking about your character. Why am I thinking these thoughts? But what about your character is good? But you know what? I am a compassionate person and I am this. So start making a list of character strengths, because in self-compassion, you don't overinflate your shortcomings. You acknowledge them, but you also realize that you have some good character strengths as well. Practicing mindfulness also goes along with this as far as meditations are concerned. You can do guided meditations and understand that prayer and meditation are 2 different things. Praying is praying and talking to God, where meditation is listening, from a Christian perspective. But it's the same thing when you're talking about people that don't come from the same faith base, where they would listen to the universe or who they define as their God or whatever, but there's 2 different things. You've got communication going that way and communication coming this way. So, like Grandma used to say, you have 1 mouth and 2 ears. Use them in that proportion. Listen twice as much as you speak. And try not to judge yourself too quickly, and don't assume things ahead of time. This is called future framing. I don't like going to events because they always make me grumpy. You've already decided that you're going to go to the social event and going to be grumpy. So don't future frame the negative. Future frame or future focus in a way that gives yourself the benefit of the doubt, where this time it's going to be different. This time I am going to have a good time. This time I have strategies that Colleen taught me about how to walk into a room and what to look for and who to know the perfect person to go speak with. Right? So give yourself, when you future frame and future focus, give yourself the benefit of the doubt and look at that positive aspect. Number 7, we're going to talk about regaining perspective and zoom out a bit and remind ourselves that we are connected to humanity. And at the same time, number 7, we want to let go of outside validation. Because a lot of our negative thinking comes from social media and the Pinterest perfect life, or the Instagram perfect person, and filtering apps, and I can make my legs longer. I don't know if you saw Shalene's post on that the other day. So we beat ourselves up for having dessert. Where does this come? That self-directed anger can come from outside social media, social pressures, because you're not supposed to eat that way and you're supposed to be on a keto, which doesn't work for me. You have to maintain a certain weight. You have to look a certain way. So don't tie your inner happiness to outside influences. And that will help you be a little bit more self-kind as well. And finally, number 8, always, always reach out to others. Put your feelings into context, because sometimes when you zoom out, other people will have a better perspective, especially if they know you really well, on what you're going through and what you're experiencing. And when you vocalize, it's worse in your head. And when you take those thoughts and emotions and vocalize them, sometimes they sound really silly. And I remember talking to my son. He had this nightmare when he was just like 3 years old and was screaming. And so I went in, turned on the light, and I sat and I was holding him. I said, "Tell me about it." He goes, "No, Mommy, it was too scary. It was too scary. No, Mommy." And I said, "Well, tell me what happened. What was scary?" And he said, "Oh, it was this huge lobster. And instead of claws, it had forks and knives." And then he burst out laughing, because in his silence of his head and in the dark room and in his nightmare, it was a terrifying lobster who did not have claws, but it had forks and knives and it was coming after him. And once he said it out loud, he started laughing, because when he said it out loud, he realized, that's kind of silly. Why was I so afraid of that? And he was like, then he was fine. And he went right back to sleep. So it's the same thing. When things are in our head, they're worse, because the mean girl is making it worse. And so when you can vocalize and get it out of your head and speak to somebody, either a best friend or your pastor or a professional, then they can give you more clarity and give you a bigger picture. And also it builds your social circle and networks that are so important to your well-being. So hopefully those 8 tips were helpful to you. I know they helped me. Going through this is always very, very helpful. If you are a member of the Cafe Club, then you will already have your notes are available inside your membership area. And if you are, depending on what tier level you are, the bonuses are also available, and more will be uploaded later today. And if you're not familiar with the Cafe Club, the link is in the show notes. You can head on over to this website, and it tells you a little bit more and your different tier levels that are available within the Cafe Club. So thanks for joining us this time. Make a comment. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What did you find helpful? What do you think is a bunch of hooey? This program has been developed, and all these notes are from professional psychiatrists as well as psychologists. And I'm just excited to have permission to share all of it with you. All right, so next time in part 3, we'll be diving a little bit deeper into more tips and tricks and methods for self-compassion. We'll see you next time. All righty, let me go look at your comments. Good stuff, isn't it? I'm just so excited about this series. Hey, Lisa, Kansas. Okay, so I didn't go back far enough. Hey, Fiona's here. I didn't see you earlier, Fiona. Let me see. Ruth is over on YouTube. She's got it working too. Oh, so happy. Just moved into the hotel, said Victoria. Almost done with the move. Good golly. Colette says it's good to know we're not the only ones with tech difficulties. That's kind of how I look at it. Hey, Brad, how you doing? So happy to have you here if you're still here on YouTube. Oh, Tina figured out how to work on YouTube. Don't you love YouTube? And the nice thing too about YouTube is that with the live, the chat remains. It didn't used to be that way, so that's good. YouTube stream working so much better than Facebook, at least for me. Good to know. Good to know. Good morning, Sheila. Victoria said the most beautiful gift you can give is to give when you are suffering, because someone may need the kindness. Yeah. And I think that's what we don't want to talk about, because I don't like to talk about what I'm going through in my personal life and share that, but every time I do, people always get something out of it and they realize that they're not alone. And especially, recently going through what I did for a couple of years with my mom and the guardianship and the caregiving and working with siblings, or trying to work with siblings and take care of all that. I have received so many, and I only talked about it a couple of times, but I've received so many notes about that. So, does mindfulness tie in with emotional intelligence? Yes, 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 Fiona. It absolutely, positively does. Absolutely does. Waiting for an appointment to proceed. Waiting for an appointment. I'm assuming you're waiting like at the doctor's office or something for an appointment, Christine. Funny thing to get in confession. I'm good enough. Tina, it was hilarious because that's what it was. And I said, okay, so we're jumping into Catholic speak here for a minute. So I went to confession. He was telling me I was being too hard on myself, which I am very hard on myself. So it makes it even harder when other people are hard on me because I'm like, yeah, I get it. But so I get into confession and he says to me, you're being too hard on yourself. You need to look at yourself in the mirror until you can love yourself the way Jesus loves you. And I said, I can never love myself the way Jesus loves me because that's a perfect love and I'm an imperfect being and I'm incapable of that. And he goes, there you go again, cutting yourself down. And he said, and I said, I don't think I can do that. And so when you tell the priest you don't think that you can do that particular thing, they're supposed to give you another one. And he was relentless, man. He wouldn't back off. And he said, no, that's what I want you to do. So I went, okay, I'll try. And I went home and I don't remember how long I stared in that mirror. And it was so goofy. And I just couldn't do it. And I stayed and I stayed and I stayed. And I'm like doing the Stuart Smalley, doggone it, I'm good enough. Doggone, this is so silly. I can never reach the level of love that God has. But it did teach me a lesson in self. So next time I went to confession, there was a different priest. And I said I was unable to complete the penance that was given me last week. And he said, and I said, but let me share with you what it was. And I told the priest what it was. And he went, technically, you'd never leave that mirror for the rest of your life. I said, thank you. That's what I tried to tell him. Fiona says, my chiropractor says that focusing on negative things, thoughts, pain, etc., actually builds new negative pathways in the brain. Absolutely true. But thankfully for neuroplasticity, we can reverse that. So every time you think a thought, it makes a groove. And the more you think that thought, the deeper the groove gets. So when you stop thinking that thought, the groove kind of starts going away. Not kind of, it starts going away. It's the same thing if you want, like math. You passed your calculus test in high school, but give you those same problems. You may have gotten an A+ then, but you haven't done it since. So those neural pathways don't exist anymore. So they have to be rebuilt. That's like I learned Spanish. I was pretty good at Spanish, and then I didn't use it for years, and now I'm relearning Spanish because I didn't use it, and all those neural pathways dissolved, basically. So it's the same thing. If you're used to negative thoughts, some of those grooves are going to be deeper than others. So it's going to take a little bit longer to stop thinking them, but it is possible. Okie dokie. Thanks, Colleen. Brad agrees. Thank you, Brad. I think these ideas are fantastic, said Ruth. Great talk. Thank you. Needed during all the stress, says Victoria by bad. Really good, said Tina. I'm glad you are still here, Brad. Coffee was good this morning. Got my coffee. By the way, tea, actually. We can grow through sharing each other's sorrows and sufferings. True, true, true. Absolutely true. So let me double check and make sure all of these replies. Hey, good morning, Amy. We're working. And that this is all working over here. This is amazing. Okay, I'm loving Mob Crush. Actually, we're going to start using OneStream in a couple of months when they have the live capabilities. But right now we are using Mob Crush, which was introduced to me by a gamer. So I figured they were the ones that knew how to do all this live streaming. So I'm on Twitch right now, and I'm on Mixer, and I don't know where I am. I'm all over the place. I just decided to go ahead and broadcast to my Twitch channel because there's nothing there, so I might as well do that. But yeah, so I am super excited about this entire series. And like I said, as time goes on, or as we continue with the series with part 3, part 4, more and more resources and bonuses and that type of thing will be made available. So very, very excited. Let me try something really quick. There we go. I just want to change cameras. But yeah, we're very excited about how everything is working out. Also, we had an amazing webinar last week. If you missed the webinar, I'm so sorry. It's already down. If you missed it and you do want to see it, I still have the link. I can open the link back up. But I will be starting this week working on people's capsule wardrobe program and narrowing down the 22 pieces. Then the lash class is going to be, so then the one-on-ones, the private training for that will be Wednesday night. So if you're in that program, that email will go out later today. Thursday night, I believe it is, we'll be doing our how to apply lashes. That lash class. So if you want more information about the lash class, let me know. Send me a note or put something in the comment. Yeah, we're over on YouTube as well. Amy, let me give you the link on YouTube. I'll get you your question in just a second, Colette. Oops. There's the link for YouTube. And you should have gotten the, if you're on Facebook Messenger, I sent out the link. I'm reading the question and trying to answer the question, a different question at the same time, and reading Colette's question to answer it now. You should be on my Facebook. Amy, I thought you were. I think you were. So anyway, Colette's question over on YouTube is negative self-talk catchy? I was surprised to hear my normally cheerful 10-year-old looking at a picture of himself saying, my hair is a mess, my teeth are crooked. It's very catchy. It's very easy to pick up negative as opposed to positive. For some reason, negative is stickier than positive. So people who are very positive and positive self-talk, again, it takes 10 positives to counteract 1 negative. So when you are around that negativity, that it's very, 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 very easy to find it seeping into your own language and your own thoughts. So again, when you hear it, especially in your home, it's important to start trying to counteract it with as much positive as possible. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Please open it for a wee bit longer. I worked 28 hours in 3 days and didn't get a chance to watch. All right, Fiona, I'll open up the replay again. Watch the replay of the webinar with my 15-year-old. She made herself a capsule wardrobe the next day. However, I'm not so motivated. It's an Amy. Yeah, I have gotten a lot of emails from people who watched just through the webinar, have been blown away. And I only gave the tip of the iceberg in the webinar. And people are blown away about how much. I mean, Paulette went ahead and built herself. She sent me a copy of what she built in her capsule wardrobe and all of that just from one of my free webinars. So it really was amazing. And people got so much and just got so much feedback from people over days. So yeah, I may just watch it up. Thank you, girlfriend. You're welcome, girlfriend. So it was a really good webinar. I worked very, very hard on it. And a lot of the graphics I used were actually from inside the membership portal, and very happy that we've got such a good group of people moving forward over the next month to really polish and get a specific capsule wardrobe. Because especially in this day and age, we just don't have a lot of money. We just don't have a lot of money. So what better way to save money than, the average woman spends almost $3,500 a year on clothes. It figures out to over $200 a month, $237 a month, something like that, on clothes. And then you go into your closet and how much of it's hanging in there that you don't wear. So, even if there's 10 items that are worth 20 bucks each, that's a good $200 of clothing that's hanging in there, just 10 items. And I don't know anybody that only has 10 things that they don't wear. And I'm constantly cleaning my closets out. Because the other thing that happens, and I talked about this on the webinar, is that you go shopping, and a lot of these girls are on commission. So you try on a blouse and you like it, And then they say, oh, get one in every color because you like it. So you do. And they're like, tee-hee. But then you look the same all the time, except for it's a different color. No, get it in the one color that you need. And that's what the capsule wardrobe does. We give you a hunting list. Not a shopping list, a hunting list. And it gives you such freedom because you can go into a store and say, I need a pair of trousers in a charcoal gray that fall straight from my hip, that are a wide leg, that do not have pleats, and no pockets on the back. But side pockets are preferred. And then you know exactly what you're looking for. So when you go into the store like, gosh, I need a pair of trousers, but you don't know what color you need that's going to work the best in your wardrobe. You don't know what style you need that's going to work best for your body type. You don't know all these other details. You go in, you just find something that fits and looks decent, and you leave, and then you get home and find out it really doesn't match anything you have, or it didn't, you got so frustrated you bought it anyway. I don't know. So anyway, I get kind of passionate about it. What Spanish course did you use? Good to learn something new every day. I started with Pimsleur, and I do really like Pimsleur, but for my lifestyle right now, I'm just using Duolingo, which is free. So I practice, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. And it's probably it's slower going than Pimsleur, but it's free. And I mean, I already have the Pimsleur course. I can always go back and listen to it again. But the thing I do like about Duolingo is being visual. I can look at a word and it helps me remember, especially Spanish, because Spanish is so simple. If a letter's there, you use it. French, on the other hand, when I was learning French, oy vey. I mean, there's so many. It's like we get a lot of our English words in the English language we do get from French. And there's so many letters that you just ignore in French. But in Spanish, every letter is there for a reason, and you pronounce them all, and they have accents. And, if it's the second to the last syllable is the one you accent unless there's an accent mark, then like, pardon me, right? It's perdón. And it's like perdón. So the accent goes on the first syllable. But it's marked that way. Donde está aquí? So aquí, A-Q-U-I, there's an accent on the I, so you know that the I gets the emphasis. So Spanish is simple, and there's a lot less words in Spanish than there are in English, number one. And then also, like my favorite is why and because. In the Spanish language, it's the same word. Why is por qué, and because is por qué. It's the same word. Your inflection's different, so, and there's a lot of words that anything that ends like ION with a shun sound is going to be pretty much the same in English and in Spanish. There's, doctor, professor, there's a lot of words that are the same word. You just pronounce them a little bit differently. And again, anything that ends with a shun sound is going to be pretty much the same in English and Spanish. So I love Spanish. I love learning it. I love the sound of it. It's simple, useful here in Texas. And I know when I was living in Michigan, there was these girls that were talking about me at this school that I was chaperoning this trip. And they're all jammering away in Spanish. And it was when I had first moved up there. So my Spanish was really good. And my understanding level was really good. And they were talking about me, and they didn't know that I knew Spanish. I think I'm losing my eyelash. Spanish course. How many clothes do we have that we don't wear? So many times. With your wardrobe tips, it's so much easier to walk into a store and not spend a fortune because now I know what to choose and what to ignore, even if it's cute. Amen, Colette. That's so true. That's so true. So it just saves you money when it's more like a hunting trip. So anyway, all right, we're going to scoot out of here because Wednesday we're going to be doing part 3. So I'm super excited about that. And I will probably send out another email and release the bonita mujer. I'll send out another email. So hopefully you're on my email list so that you will know and get the link to watch that webinar again. because I did get a lot of emails from people, and I don't really answer emails on Sunday. I try not to. So I wasn't able to get to everybody's comments and questions. So anyway, all right, so let's, I forget how to get out of here on Mob Crusher. Oh, yeah, that's right. New technology, multi-streaming. So instead of logging off on Facebook and or YouTube, I just log off on OBS and I'm all done. So, alrighty. So make sure you make your comments and questions. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you, make sure you let me know. Pop me an email or make a comment. Webinar was great, by the way. Thank you, Ruth. All right, I'm going to hop on out of here. Have an amazing, amazing week. And we will see you Wednesday morning, same time, same place. Take care. God bless.